You know, another dude got to read John chapter 3. John chapter 3 reads like this. There was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus who came to Jesus by night and said, Rabbi, this dude got up and said, there was a man of the Pharisees who was on narcotics who came to Jesus by night and said, Rabbit. so so first of all, you got to know your gift. Know what it is that you're good at. Know what it is that you bring to the table. And so if you have talents from God and you have gifts from God, God gave you those gifts so that he can make everybody else better around you. I'm gonna say that again. If you have talents and you have gifts, God gave you those gifts and talents so that you can make everybody valuable and help out everybody around you. There's this verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7. It says, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the good of everyone. In other words, manifestation is not this huge word. It just means doing something. So the Spirit is doing something in you for the good of every single person. The question becomes, what is the Spirit doing in you? So I have a gift. My primary gift is encouragement. And so what I do is I recognize that. Now, here's what you got to recognize. If you truly indeed have a gift, spiritual gift, you don't use it haphazardly. If you indeed have a gift, you want to make sure that your gift is honoring God. So I'm an encourager. When I encourage, because it's not just I'm not always doing it, but it's the Spirit of God inside of me. There's certain things that I see that I don't recognize. There's certain things that I see that I don't see on purpose. In other words, I'm noticing it. It's part of what makes me a comedian. I'm observing things. I'm seeing it. Most people aren't necessarily seeing it like I see it. For instance, one of the strongest jokes that I had in the metaverse was everybody's noticing it, but it's when you can tell that somebody's like they got their menu options up and they're clicking through. I dropped the mic. I'll put the mic here. So when everybody's looking up and they're clicking through menu options, right? So I noticed, where did the mic go? I noticed that nobody ever talked about that. And so then one day I was doing a show in the Soapstone, and I said, man, there's several things that I learned in the metaverse. And that's when not to talk to people. You don't talk to people when they're doing this. And then I said, man, I wish I could put that in real life. I wish I could do that in real life. Like the other day, my wife was talking to me and she said, how do I look in that dress? And I was like, and then she said something to me. I'm like, you muted. I can't hear you. Now, as a stand-up comedian, it's really awkward for me telling a joke while everybody is muted because I'm hearing no laughs on that joke. I don't know if that joke worked or if that joke just fell flat. I don't know. And I don't know if the way it is designed, if it the stage design, good. If y'all good. Just can't hear me.
It was good. I laughed out loud.
Oh, appreciate that. Appreciate it. Oh, it's like a Zoom call. You mute yourself. I get it. So as an encourager, I'm encouraging things that I just see, but I don't even realize that I see until I begin to open my mouth. For instance, let's take Bernice. Like, who else decided that, you know what, this is a place for those of us who hold up the banner of Christ and call ourselves Christ followers? Man, how can I begin to create and influence this space? And she's one of the people do it. Killer B's doing a similar thing. And so that's so me doing what I just did is operating in my gift of encouragement. I'm just calling out some stuff that I see. I see Bernice, I see Killer B doing what they do. And so in networking in the metaverse, here's what you do. You just call out the good stuff that you see. As Christians, we're called, man, to be encouragers, to like encourage one another, to even speak well of. So the question becomes, how are you speaking well of people in the metaverse? Because there's this idea. Here's what I learned about the metaverse is the way that I began. I know y'all struggle with this too, communicating and explaining what the metaverse is to people who are not in the metaverse. That's one of the most difficult things. You're like, yo, it's like, you don't get that one. Okay. It's like, no, you don't get that either. Okay. Imagine cartoons. You watch the cartoon show, but instead of you watch the cartoons, you are the cartoon. That's so. But one way that I explain the metaverse to people is, remember, and some people might not remember this. Remember when AOL first came out, and they had chat rooms, or MySpace. And then sometimes I go way old school. Remember pen pals? Remember, like, you never met a person, but you would write them a letter and would put it in the mail. Well, imagine doing that, but you got sunglasses on and you're reading your mail, that letter out loud. Because with the Oculus is on, because of what it does is, you seeing in your peripheral just all black. It makes you locked and loaded and makes you a little bit more hyper focused. And when we're hyper focused, we have the tendency to really speak from the depths of our heart like nothing else. And the way that human beings were made, human beings' brains are made to look for safety. Your brain picks up negative things sometimes because your brain interprets information as if it's dangerous. So the way that I want to make sure I protect myself, look at what's dangerous and make note of it. But your brain also looks for places where it can be safe. That's oftentimes when we can make ourselves feel the most safest and relying on our own flesh, that is. And so we become a little bit more introverted, or you recognize when there's a safe place and you run to it. The question becomes, in a corrupt world, how are you speaking safety to people with your words? So this is just some deeper level of, I want to say deeper, just some little discerning that and how I operate in the metaverse. The metaverse is, everybody's a little skeptical, but when I noticed that I was naturally encouraging people just by speaking positive things, people began to lean into me. People began to say, yo, I noticed that you're saying this. It makes me feel a certain way. I want to hear you talk more. So then people started inviting me to places. So it showed up when I first came into the metaverse. I had my thoughts about the metaverse. I was headlining a show at a comedy club in Minnesota. The owner of the comedy club then came to me and said, yo, we have a virtual comedy club. Can you go to our virtual comedy club after the real show and tell some jokes? I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. I've been thinking about the metaverse anyway. I showed up in this comedy club that was called Gutty's Comedy Club at the time. And then I saw a guy, I was the president of the Christian Comedy Association. So being part of the Christian Comedy Association, I met a lot of comedians. When I stepped into Gutty's, I saw that a comedian that I had some interactions with on several occasions was in there pretty much facilitating it. His name was Aaron Searles, who as an unemployed alcoholic. So I looked at Aaron, I was like, yo, Aaron, dude, I see what you're doing. Again, notice what I'm doing. I said, dude, I see what you're doing. This is amazing. And I watched Aaron as he talked to me and talked to others, and I simply called out what I saw him doing. And in the midst of calling out what I saw him doing, he was like, Jason, dude, you're always encouraging me. In fact, man, I love to talk to you offline. I was like, dude, I love to talk to you. We talked offline, and I just simply said, man, once again, I want to affirm what you're doing. I said, dude, you are always an amazing leader. And I began to tell him how I saw him leading at this Gutty's Comedy Club. And then Aaron said, man, I've got some issues that I want to talk to you about. You mind if I record the conversation? I was like, yeah, let's go ahead. So he started throwing these issues that he was having and challenges in the metaverse to me. And me being the guy that I am, I just offered advice to him. The stuff resonated with him. He started putting the stuff into practice and it started working. And the stuff that I began to tell him were actually some of the foundations of what's now known as Soapstone Comedy Club. It's there's just some basic things that I've learned working at churches, that I've learned in leadership, and he began to pick my brain on that stuff because I encouraged him. And so in terms of networking, it's the foundation of it, of one, if you know who God is, if you know who Christ is, you allowing him to consistently be in this place of refining who you are. Another theological term is sanctifying you, as you're going through this sanctification process and you're using your skills. And for those who don't know what sanctification is, it just simply means set apart. Like this stage or this section of this stage of this world is set apart. And it's only certain things that happen up here as opposed to in the seats. And so that's actually what sanctification is. So when we say sanctified, it actually means that we're set apart. And God is consistently in this place of sanctifying us and refining us and making us better. And so in doing that, it's being able to see things clearly, being able to see things for what they're worth, and calling people on that, using your gifts. Again, God didn't give everybody everything. He gave everybody something. And as you begin to do that, then your gifts in turn will make room for you and allow you to be in places where people want to pick your brain. And when that happens, you're offering value, and then you're seeing value of more people, and you're seeing how to connect this person, and you don't do it selfishly. That's another tenet of the Christian faith. Our tenet is probably, yeah, I would say a tenet is don't be selfish. And there's this verse that says, do nothing with selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, regard one another as more important than yourself. So what you want to do is, man, how can I hold you in high regard? I'm seeing what you do. How can I, in turn, help you do that better? Oh, I know Alma Jean. Alma Jean is always watchful. She's always encouraging. Let me make sure you connect with her, because a person who's quiet and watching, they're probably seeing some stuff that other people can't. So, since you're watching and I've been talking up here, let me throw a question to you. That's kind of what I do in the metaverse. If I notice that the person is in the room talking, not talking while I'm doing a lot of talking, I instantly throw it to that person. Hey, let's look at that person. What do you think? And so it's, man, how can I exalt or build other people up more than I'm building myself up? And so in that context that I got that verse from Philippians chapter 2, it goes on to talk about looking at Christ, who didn't count himself robbery, and I'm not here to preach to y'all, but the idea is, man, Christ didn't count himself robbery or this of God to be this thing to be grasped, but he came here in a humble state to help us out. And so that's how we should mirror. So the question becomes, how are you helping people out? How are you seeking out the strengths of others and helping them? I'm gonna pause right there and take some questions or some comments or some amens, attaboys, or you suck, Jason. I don't know if that's the format Bernie's